Hello and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston Moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Good morning, Cold Coffee Club, and Happy New Year. It is so great to be joining y'all in 2024. So this episode, we're going to be talking about our word of the year. I'm going to be joined with Chris Sizemore and Tiffany Harris from Houston Moms, and we're going to talk about what word we chose to make our mantra, our theme of this year. And we're going to dig into that. But before we do that, let's jump into our tea. I'm going to spill the tea. I only have a win this week, and my win is that I had an absolutely incredible birthday. I know we discussed in the last episode that my birthday is December 27th, and I was really excited to celebrate this year, just celebrate a new year in more ways than one, I guess. But I had a great birthday. It was very simple. I did some simple things. I had an incredible lunch, incredible dinner, fed the ducks at Herman Park. I just got to have, enjoy really great company and keep it pretty minimalistic. And it wasn't anything too extravagant, which is kind of my vibe. And then I went thrift store shopping, which was so much fun. I found a string of vintage thrift stores that, just browsing through and finding old school stuff that some of it was on the cheap, some of it was not. I didn't realize that thrift stores could get kind of pricey, but I did end up finding a few things that I just had to have, and it was an absolute blast. It was so much fun. So really thankful for a great birthday, and I was honestly overwhelmed by just how happy I was that day. The weather was beautiful. The things I got to do were just things I really just felt like doing. Going to a park and feeding the ducks, it just in the sunshine. I loved it. It was amazing. And no fail this week. I'm starting 2024 just riding the high of my birthday, and I'm just going to stick with that. So for my cream and sugar this week, I am going to spotlight a restaurant that I got to check out on my birthday. It is called 93 Till. And it has been on my list of places I just wanted to go visit. I looked up their menu, kind of looked up their vibe, and I was like, yeah, this is where I want to go. So 93 Till is the name of the restaurant is based on an album and a song by Souls of Mischief. And it's a banger. Okay. And this restaurant is very chill. It's not very big. Their menu is relatively small, but that just means that they get to like nail every single item on the menu. And we got to try, I had a burger that was ridiculous. Like it was everything I needed a burger to be. And then I also had a crispy chicken sandwich. And I split it, and the food is so good. Like I can't wait to go back and see, try out all the other things on their menu. Super chill spot. The bartender, I went there like right as they had opened for lunch, and the bartender was really cool. Their drinks were amazing. It wasn't insanely priced, and then they play vinyl records throughout the restaurant, and they're just kind of swapping out records while you're there, and it's just such cool energy. It was everything I wanted on my birthday, and I can't wait to go check it out again. I would love to see what it's like kind of like on a weekend evening when it's busier, because we were the only people there when I went, and but it was such fun energy, and I can't wait to go back.
Hey Houston, I want to hear from you. Would you like to be a guest on the Cold Coffee Club? Send me a message at thecoldcoffeeclubhm@gmail.com. That's thecoldcoffeeclubhm, like Houston Moms, @gmail.com. Can't wait to hear from you.
All right, Cold Coffee Club. So it is a new year, and I do not ascribe to the whole new year, new me kind of attitude. It's same me, but there are some things that I like to focus on for the new year. Chris and Tiffany are here to share with us what their word of the year is going to be, what they're really focusing on in their lives. So for starters, Chris, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself one more time? I know both of y'all have been on the Cold Coffee Club with us, but I would love for new listeners to know a little bit about who you are and then jump into your words of the year.
I'm Chris. I am a mom, as we all are, and marketing content creator person. I also run the social media for Houston Moms. So if you see posts, it's me. But I'm also an artist and a writer, and you can find me over at Stronger Than Fire on Instagram. Yeah, that's who I am.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Harris. I am also a contributor for the Houston Moms, and I'm in my second year, I think, which is amazing because it went so fast. I can't believe that this is going into the second year. I'm a mom of twin 7-year-olds, a girl and a boy, married, not native to Houston, but I've been here now almost 13 years. So I think this is a permanent situation. And happy to have made it to 2024. It was 2023 was a big one.
Yes, amen. All right, Chris, let's get us started with your word of the year and tell us how you landed on this word and what it then means to you in 2024.
The word for me this year is patience, which is, I don't know, is there like a naturally patient person? I'm sure they exist. I have a friend. She was like, we went to her house. She was in Oklahoma, and she was baking with our toddlers. And that looked like hell to me. And
Yeah.
she was just like, now you put the thing, and it was just so patient. Like, I think she might be like the single one person that patience comes easy to. It's not me. And I've had words in the past, like grace was a big one for me a couple years ago, and not just giving others grace, but giving myself grace. But really, patience this year is about patience with my mental health, patience with my career, patience with the projects and the things that I want to do that aren't moving as quickly as I would like them to move. I mean, I wrote a book last year and the sales have been okay, but you know, like you put all this time and energy into a thing and you're like, it's gonna be amazing. And then you get like 10 sales the first month and you're like, oh,
Right.
okay. And it's easy to get down on yourself, and it's easy to do all of that. But I feel like if I am patient, that solves all of that. It's not just about like the self-talk and all of that, but if I go, this is a thing that has to grow, I have to market it just like I market anything else. And that goes to so many things that I'm really trying to work on this year. Our Stronger Than Fire is our website and everything, but that's all based off, we lost our house in a fire in 2017. I suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and a lot of the things that come out of that. And I've done a lot of work over the last 6 years since the fire, and like incredibly better in so many ways, not just from fire stuff, but just therapy's awesome and it helps you with everything. But there's still like, and if you're in therapy, you know, like as you unpack things, you're like, yes, I've worked through this. But then like other things come up and you're like, seriously?
Right.
Right.
So it's patience in that. And, you know, there's things that I'm uncovering that are in how I operate and how my brain works that aren't necessarily normal or healthy. I have strong anxiety, and I've done a really good job over the last 6 years to manage it, but I haven't worked the path to heal it. And I think that is a big one for me, is like patience in what I'm doing and the steps I'm taking, and patience and still some grace for myself. So, and that's hard. It's hard to look at yourself and go, I'm still a little bit broken, even though I've been doing a lot of work for the last 6 years. But if you don't admit that you're a little bit broken, you can't ever fix it either. So it's really those two things. And like another big goal for me this year is to draw more. I went to art school a million years ago. I paint, and I really got out of drawing. I just haven't done it. And I kept like trying to uncover why. And I lost like 2 decades of art journals in our fire. And so there's nothing to be like, hey, I used to do this. And so, but I've been really trying take time to draw and be patient with myself as I'm drawing, which I know that sounds really weird, but I have a tendency to do a lot of quick sketches, and I'm really trying to be patient with myself on looking at observing the subject I'm drawing, really thinking about composition and all of these different things. And it's really just about taking more time with that work. So and my last big goal is making sure that I'm doing yoga every day and being patient with my body as it's aging and doesn't do the things that it used to do, you know? So, I mean, it just, this patience word has really like weaved itself throughout every part of who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish in 24. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
sharing that. That is, there's a lot of power in the word that you choose, or in the words that you choose to implement in your life. And so I love that so many different facets of your life need a little bit of patience, and you're going to then apply it to all those. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Like, let's talk December and be like, how's that patience thing going, Chris? And I'll be like,
no.
Yes.
All right, Tiffany, what about you? What's your word of the year?
So my word for the year is believe. I toyed with a few other words. I thought about patience. I thought about grace, providing myself grace. But once I like really toyed with all the different words, it all came back to believe. And in fact, I have a post this month on believe, but I'm even going to kind of pull that out into being sort of a larger series. So I've done the consequences of pregnancy, which is like one of my favorite things that I've done here in the last year. But so I'm going to do this believe series, the power to believe. And then the first one is about the power to believe, and it starts with you. And for me, it's been kind of a culmination. Like 2023 was not a bad year, but it was just like, the way I worded it in the article in the blog is that there's been these like little paper cuts of things that have happened across the year that have undercut my confidence. And it left me feeling like really at the end of the year, just uneasy. But I'm one of those people that I'm like always trying to look at the positive, because like, honestly, I have this, I really am like so thankful for my life. Like I'm so thankful for the kids, and just how amazing they are, and my marriage and everything else. So it feels kind of in some ways inauthentic to say, oh, hey, like your confidence is taking a hit, but it's the truth. And so I know I have to like really work on what it is that's kind of undercutting that. I know that it's some of the people and just some of the situations. And so I really just want to work on believing in myself and the possibility, right? Like, really not letting some of these external things, like even something happened right before this. And I just was like, golly, like, can you, like, let's stop.
Right.
Let's stop trying to talk, like, let's stop trying to take a hit to my self-confidence, and how to manage that too, right? And I remember in my 20s and my 30s, I also like particularly in my 20s, it was like, it's tough. Like, I don't know anyone who's gone through their 20s and been like, hey, that was a really fabulous experience.
Yeah.
But so I really had to build that muscle then. And so I'm like, okay, so I've learned a lot in 20 years. So let's really just not cruise through this, but like, let's take the long approach and not let it go on for so long, so that really that other things start to set in, like bad habits and, not being kind to yourself. I was just listening to something from Cheryl Lee Ralph, and she was like, look the person in the mirror, and if you can't do any of these other things, be kind to it. Like, be kind to the person that you see in the mirror. And so I want to believe the person. I want to believe in me and the things that I know are true for myself and my life and others this year. So that's my word for the year. And it's come up so many times. So I was like, okay, the word is, it's belief. It's believe.
Yeah. And show us your shirt. Show
yes,
our viewers.
Yes, yes, I did.
Love it.
I looked all over. like challenged myself not to spend $50 on a sweater and spent $16 on a t-shirt instead.
That's
This is
awesome.
Houston. This is Houston listeners. So it's sunny and nice outside. So we can do t-shirts in January.
That's awesome. I love that. I actually have a tattoo that says the word believe.
Really?
I love, so first of all, I love tattoos because I love seeing kind of a timeline of like where I was when I got this. Like I can kind of remember, and it was in my 20s that I got believe. And I was like, girl, you need this. Like, come on, you've got this. You're great. Build up on your confidence. Like, come on. And so I needed a permanent reminder. I love
it.
I do.
Maybe
that'll be the way I end the year.
Do it.
Yes.
Love it. So for my word of the year, first I have to give a little bit of backstory. I am your classic overthinker. And it's always the most minute stuff that I'm overthinking. I'm like, well, why did they say it like this? Do they hate me? Like, oh my gosh, that mistake I made, that's gonna ruin everything. Like the things that are so ridiculous to overthink about, I obsess over those things. And I realized that I was being very introspectively focused, and I really wanted to make the word of the year force me to think outside of myself a little bit. And so I saw a meme I saw a couple memes recently that really spoke to me, and I was going to share those, as those kind of led me to my word as well. So the first one said, let's heal so we can stop accidentally hurting people we want to love because we're projecting our own wounds onto them. So that was a whole word, because I realized that a lot of how I move about the world in general and relate to other people ties into my own stuff that I'm still in the process of working through. I'm still in the process of figuring out what it is I need, etc. And then the second one said, we cannot shame ourselves into change. We can only love ourselves into evolution. And so that also spoke to me, because when I started realizing some of my patterns, I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you are the problem. It's me. Hi. Like, I was so like irritated with myself. Like, you're creating problems in your life. And so I realized, like, it kind of tied into giving myself some grace. My word of the year is pause. I want to take a moment in my everyday life to just really be intentional about my words, be intentional about my actions, be intentional about my reactions to things. I was noticing, just dealing with my children, sometimes I was being more reactionary than I wanted to be. And if I had just taken a moment to pause, things would have panned out differently. Or, recently I had an interaction with the person that I'm dating, and I posed a question that if I had paused and thought about, like, what's the goal here? What is the potential end result here? Any of those things, it probably would have prompted me to either reframe the question or not even ask the question. Because really, when I thought about it, I was like, this is so unnecessary. I didn't even need to go there. But my brain was like, it matters to me right now in this second. So I'm going to say it because it's in my head. If I had taken that moment to pause, it probably would have been beneficial for my relationship. So just really focusing on making sure that I'm doing what is necessary and needed and helpful to basically every realm in my life, I think it'll pan out better for me. And I think I need to, just really focus on taking that pause, really take a moment to take a beat and be like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And what are we trying to do? What are our goals here? And then moving forward, instead of just moving forward because it's happening and this is how we do things. No. So word of the year is pause.
Yeah.
I like it.
Awesome.
That's awesome. My therapist told me about the pause, because I'm like you, like I am reactionary. I even said, I come into a room and the room is a mess, and I just like react. I take a quick look around. Why is it? Oh, you did it. Okay, you did it. As opposed to taking a moment and saying, oh, they're just in the middle of play. so it's messy. It doesn't mean it's going to stay that way.
Right.
So she was just like, you need to learn how to pause to react, or I'm sorry, pause to respond versus react.
Right.
And so I've worked a lot on that this year as well, so that I can, and I find that it helps. Like, I think the first place you'll see it is with your kids, because they will feel more trusting in you when they know that you will respond versus always reacting to everything that they say. And so that's a uphill kind of thing, because
heck yeah,
you have to have patience. You have to have patience to do it.
Yeah. I think that's something we've all worked on in our family for a very long time. And I think even my husband would admit I'm a lot better at it than he is. And I think it's because I was a peacemaker in our household. So my brain's always constantly thinking of like, how is this person feeling? How is this person feeling? What can I do to make everybody feel more comfortable? Which is not good in itself, because I end up like giving up my own stuff to help other people feel more comfortable. But that respond and not react has got to be, and even our therapist has said this, like one of the absolute hardest things to do, because our brains are like biologically wired to react. It's fight or flight, right? Like even if it's as simple as like, I just cleaned the kitchen and somebody left a dish in the sink, our brains are like fight or flight. And most of the times we're fighting, especially in that situation. So, our brains don't go, oh, well, they probably left it in the sink because they had to go to the bathroom really quick and they're going to come back and take care of it, or they got a phone call or whatever. Like our brains are not wired to do that naturally. Like we have to be very adamant about making that happen. It's tough.
It's tough.
But it's so good that you've like recognized it and seen it. My daughter is 10 going on 16 and is like, we are in the throes of early puberty and like preteen, and they're like, she will hug me and then like 20 minutes later, she will hug me and 20 minutes later she's like pissed that I won't let her eat a sandwich for lunch, like and I mean about to throw down. So respond and not react is what we're trying to teach her. But I had a really rough day this week. One of the days this week I had a panic attack. I was just not, I had very little patience, and I knew it in myself. And she came in guns blazing about something, and I don't even know what it is. And I told her, I looked at her and I was like, I love you. I do not have the capacity. And she like kept guns blazing. And I was like, I do not have the capacity. And this is going to get bad for you if you don't walk away. And it was just like, I knew that like my fuse was this big that day, but I was so proud of her because she looked at me, she looked at the look on my face, and she turned around and left. And she came back with a much better attitude. And so like, but for me to have like, I'm proud of myself to have the wherewithal to know, like, I am going to react. There's no response left for me here. I have nothing left. You are only going to get reaction. And it's going to be like the Italian genetics are just going to fly right out of me right now. And so, but I'm just proud of her because she was able to like look at me and go, yeah, mom's not, this is not the day.
Well, yeah, and I'm proud of you too, being kind of the peacekeeper. And, I think it's important to recognize, like, while my word of the year is me focusing externally, it does not mean that I'm just going to give free rein to everybody and like, who cares what I need or feel or whatever. It's just like the idea of consideration, like consider where that other person's coming from, consider what they're bringing to the table that might, make them respond in a certain way or whatever. Like just taking that moment to get on someone else's level and really kind of just try to understand them a little bit better. That does not mean I'm just drop everything about Ashley, but also I'm going to include you and your thoughts, feelings, whatever in my next move, But that's amazing for you because you took a minute, instead of being the peacekeeper, you also understood like, I need something, but I'm going to consider you because you're my tiny human. And I'm going to consider like, hey, I understand that you have some feelings right now. I'm going to let you know respectfully, you need to knock it off.
Yep. this is not the time.
Not the time.
I think it's so interesting that like as we work on these things in ourselves as moms, I see it trickle down to my kid. Like as we work on respond and not react, that trickles down to her. As you work on believing, that's going to trickle down to your kids. As you work on everything, like everything throughout the year, pausing, patience, all of that, it trickles down to the rest of our family, which I think is really cool. And just like, it's just a bonus. You know, that's not something we're actively doing, but it does happen.
Well, and the crazy thing, and you're right, because the crazy thing is, like, we used to set, like, our house was like a house of New Year's resolutions that, were over by March, to be quite honest, right? And I picked up, and so like when I saw you ask for like for the show or requesting people to show up for the show, I loved it because I was like, I am such a word person. Like I did away with resolutions several years ago.
Same.
And I started with words because I was like, what word, what mantra do I need to lean back to guide me through the years? Like, what do I need? And I was sitting here trying to think what was the word I had for a couple of years, but it must have been so intrinsic that now it's just part of me because I cannot remember what it was, but I kept it for probably 2 years, and it really helped to settle me and direct me and provide me guardrails for my behavior. Right. And I think that's why I even chose this word, because like I said, it could have been any number of words, but I was like, what guardrail do I need? What do I need that when I'm finding myself saying, oh, I can't, or should I really like think that that's what it is? Yeah, I need to believe that. I need to not buy into something that people are trying to sell me or tell me about themselves that I intrinsically know is not true.
Right.
Yep.
And I think as people, as women, maybe even sometimes we are so tempted to want to believe, like I'm really tempted and wanting to believe in the best of people and continually give people allowances, but I have to believe in like how a person is showing up in that moment as well, and give pause to myself to be like, okay, if that's what you say you are, that's great. But what you're showing up as is something completely different. So that's what I'm going to deal with. And I'm going to believe that as well. And then that's how we're going to interact moving forward. So yeah, I love the fact that it is the words, because that's what our children can hold on to, and they can and their behavior is probably not only going to be influenced by it, but can be so much more long lasting, right? Because they'll carry that with them. They'll carry your changed behavior a lot longer and a lot further than they will like, oh, mom set a resolution to lose 20 pounds this week, this year. She made it through about 3 pounds and then she gave up.
Yeah. It's way more impactful and way more attainable. Like I have clients, marketing clients that are like, we want to do a new year, new you marketing campaign in January. And I'm like, no one wants that. Like,
right. Yeah.
Can we
from like a mental health
in 2023, please? Just leave it.
It's the worst.
So
and like
done.
to try to have to negotiate people out of that concept. Like that's old. It's everyone's messaging. Your message is just going to get lost, all this kind of stuff. Also, it's hurtful. Like
it's hurtful.
Yeah. Like you weren't awful in 23. You were different. You were not who you are today. You've grown hopefully since then. That's great. But that you don't have to change everything about yourself just because the clock turned over December 31st. Like that's insane.
I hate the whole concept.
That's absolutely insane. So set attainable goals and not, I mean, it's just, I don't know what the statistics on like abandoned
like 80%
New Year's resolutions.
It's literally over. I want to say it's 80%, but I think it's well over 75% within 30 days. They have it like by the end of the month, like so many have dropped off. Within 30 days, it's like not happening. And then you look out 45 or 60 days later. I mean, and then like gyms and things like that. They've gotten you into a three-month commitment, and you've given up on that commitment 30 days ago. So yeah, or 60 days ago, because it's just too much. So it's about,
well, in the advertising world, there's a thing called goals, strategies, and objectives. And when we were youth pastors, we taught our kids this just as like a life thing. Like, I have this big lofty goal of, I don't know, what is everybody's? I want to lose weight. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? Well, here's my strategies. And I'm going to move more. I'm going to eat less sugar. I'm going to do, those two things. Okay, well, what are the objectives of that? Well, I'm no longer going to buy sugar and have it in the house. So it's not a thing. I'm going to move more by those objectives are, I want to make sure that I'm walking or doing yoga or whatever. And so like, I think a lot of people are out there setting these huge, massive goals without working down to the strategies and objectives to those things. And really, I think that these words are more the strategies and objectives to much loftier goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that too.
Have y'all shared your word of the year with either your spouses or with your children?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's
yet.
one thing that I realized was like, oh yeah, I need to also tell other people, like, this is what I'm working on, especially my children, like, hey, let's do this together. Let's try to like help. My kids want to be supportive in like their own way. They think like, Mom, I'm helping you. And a lot of times it's like, well, that's not helpful, but I appreciate the effort. But sharing with them like, hey, I really want to focus on this year, and having them kind of like check me every now and then is accountability. Me. They're like, this isn't you pausing. And I'm like, you know what? You are absolutely right. Thank you. Or even, with friends or in my current relationship, like I'm going to share with him like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Maybe you can just like help support me in that way, or like maybe acknowledge from time to time. Like, I don't necessarily need the acknowledgement, but if you see me taking a beat to be like, all right, let me think this through before I just say what it is that popped into my head. If you notice that, that would be really great for you to say, hey, I noticed that you did this. It would be kind of nice every now and then other people to notice like, hey, I see that you're still working on that.
Accountability is one of the main ways you can achieve a goal, is being accountable, because if you just like keep it inside, there's nothing to check you or nothing for to be like, oh, you're doing a good job. I think people lose, the weight loss I keep going back to, because that's like the number one goal. People lose momentum because they're not hearing people say, oh, you looked different. But sometimes weight loss isn't about just looks. It's about how your body feels and how you can move better and your energy, all of these things. And they forget that those are also, and if they haven't shared it, nobody's going to be like, hey, I can see, like, you no longer could fall asleep at 8:30 at night. Like you've got to, and that's something I've been trying to do, is share my drawings on my Instagram, just because, and I wrote the first one that I've shared, I was like, if you see no drawings, shoot me a DM and be like, hey, how's that drawing going? Because I know my family won't do it. They won't be paying attention, but like Instagram folks are going to be like, hey, I really like those drawings. Where'd they go? And I'm like, call me out.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is kind of on topic, but kind of not. So do y'all ever watch Family Guy?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to send it to y'all and I'm going to link it in our show notes. Okay, so Stewie, the baby, is basically trying to make Brian, the dog, accountable. Brian said that he wants to write a novel. And throughout the entire show, there's little moments where he's like, so how's that novel going? And it is hysterical. But the way he breaks down, like, so what are your characters up to? Like, just the whole interaction is the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, I need someone to do that in my life. You're like, oh, hey, Ashley, so how's pausing going for you? Like, it is, I'm going to put it in the show notes and y'all are going to think I'm ridiculous, but it is, I will laugh hysterically by myself watching this clip because it is so funny. I'm going to send it to both of you.
I'm for it.
It is so funny. It's so funny. But anyway.
Yeah. I feel like it's such a personal journey, so it's like, like my husband can't see the insides. My kids really don't know about the insides. And like, I feel like it's something I will share with my daughter because she's, like I said, she's like turning into this, and I don't want to call it like a mini version of me because she's so much herself, but she definitely gets the way I think. And I feel like it would give her at some point a lot of structure as well for how she's approaching her life. But yeah, I haven't. Not because I don't think they would care, but just because I'm not even sure he would be paying attention, like any of them would be paying attention to it in that way. But it's something to certainly think about. Like I would love to do a word of the year for the family. So like maybe next year there'll be 8, a little bit more aware. And maybe that's something we can give each other for next year. So that's a good idea though.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about making like a family word of the year, but maybe pause is just all of our word of the year because I feel like my children need that too. Maybe I need less accountability for them and more participation. Let's do it together. Now thinking about it, these people need some pausing in their lives.
And I mean, it's a great way. I might, something happened yesterday with my daughter and my son, and I think has she done something like you said, like pause to think about, okay, I'm entering into a situation. This seems fun at first. Now it's not becoming so fun and other people's feelings are getting hurt. Like, what does that mean? And, as young as they are, like I told her, I said, your instincts will tell you, and maybe like the words might be instinct one year, but it's like your instincts can tell you, does this feel good to you? Like, would this feel good to you? The same thing was happening. So maybe next year it'll be third grade, starting to get up there. They'll be turning 9 next year. We might do a family word here.
You're just knocking on puberty's door right there at 9. And I know that's crazy to say, but like my
Chris,
daughter's 10, she'll be 11 in a couple months.
It's gone so fast. Like I can't even, it warms my heart and breaks my heart all at the same time. Like I saw someone feeding their baby the baby food, and I was so happy to be past that stage because it was awful and it was messy, and like we always had to clean up. But I do still miss the baby stage.
Yep. Same. Same.
They're like, nice. You need to tell us. You didn't say brush your teeth when we got ready. I was like, you guys are 7. You know what it means. Like, get ready, brush your teeth, wash your face, put your clothes on. Like, you don't need a list.
I mean, my 11-year-old still does that, and I'm like, bro, what are we doing? You live here. You know what this is about. When I say get ready for the day, why are you looking at me like, what? You didn't say.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, come on. Come on. Do you see me brush my teeth when I get ready?
They're so interesting. I have to stop myself from calling my kids weird, but sometimes I'm like, y'all are so weird. Like, what's going on? It's weird. What are you thinking about?
Weird in a good way. It's not weird in a bad way. It's like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and what you're doing doesn't really compute to me.
Right.
So I'm finding it not
confusing to me.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Maybe that's the word. You're so confusing to me. Like I don't quite understand what it is.
No, it's not mathing. The math is not mathing. Oh my gosh. Well, thank y'all so much for joining me today and sharing your words of the year. I would love to check in with y'all maybe in like June or something and see how your word of the year is going and how it is kind of impacting your day-to-day lives. I think we might have to do a follow-up episode on this.
Absolutely. I would love to. That's accountability.
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
We know that there's going to be a public display of our words in June. Immediately I have more motivation.
Yes, I know. That's exactly what I thought, Chris. I was like, oh my goodness, that's accountability.
Yep, we'll do it at 6 months and then we'll do like a year-end wrap up, and we'll check in at the end of the year
That's
and see
awesome.
if you're still going strong. I am writing
Yes.
that down now so I don't
Absolutely.
forget.
I would love it. I would love it.
Awesome.
No,
All
I just
right.
wish everybody the best in 2024. I've heard a lot of different
Absolutely.
stories about how 2023 was, and that's why it's so interesting. I think 2023 was privately like a very hard year for people. Like, I think we all
Yeah.
put up this, like, not front, but like we really tried to be our best and show up as our
Yes.
best. But internally, we were crumbling and we were just trying to hold
Yep.
it together. And so I just wish everyone the best in 2024. I know it was difficult in different ways. And so, like, really thoughts and light to everyone as you enter this year and just start off on your best foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's fascinating that you say that, because I really think 23 was that way. I think 20 and 21, we were like collectively like, this is dumpster fire.
Yes.
And so we could all like work together and be like, yes, this is awful. What is even this
Right.
world?
Right,
And
yeah.
murder hornets and, you know, like all the weirdness that happened in 2020. It's like, what? But we could like collectively do it. But I think, you know, we're all coming off of what was trauma. We all went through a pandemic. We all went through trauma, and not everybody's dealing with it. And then we had 22, so we're getting back to normal. And I think in 23, we all had this expectation that everybody was going to be great. And I think you're absolutely right. I think people silently suffered through 23.
Yes.
And it was tough in a lot of very personal ways, but we weren't collectively doing it. So we don't feel like we can share. And I think that it's important to share those things, because guaranteed there is someone else going through it too. And knowing you're not alone is huge.
Yeah.
That's just a great way to wrap it all up, is like, yes, like we get it. We all see that we're all personally dealing with some stuff, but also, hey, love and light, let's rock 2024. This is a new opportunity to, you know, make these days count as much as we possibly can, and you know, learn, grow, heal as much as possible, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank y'all again. Thank you so much
for
joining. This has been
Thank
awesome,
you.
and I'm so excited for y'all's words of the year, and I'm rooting for both of you.
Same. You too.
Thank you.
Take care,
right.
everyone.
Thanks again to Chris and Tiffany for joining me. I loved their words of the year. I can't wait to see how they are manifesting their words of the year and how they're putting it into practice. By making a word of the year, we are instead of focusing on a result, we're really just focusing on a practice, making a habit out of something. And I think that's way more attainable. So I can't wait to check back in with them. All right. So for our Houston Moms House Blend this week, I am going to first touch back on Tiffany's post about her word of the year. Please go check that out this week. And it is called The Power to Believe Starts With You by Tiffany. Definitely check that out, especially after listening to our chat about how important the word believe is to Tiffany and her goals for this year. I'm also going to mention a post by Kim Reed. It is called 4 Mental Health Resolutions for 2024. This is such a needed post. I am not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions, but these make so much sense, and they are so necessary for, you know, setting a great tone for the rest of the year, healing from things, you know, becoming a better you. It is so important to focus on your mental health, and Kim really spotlights the things that you can do to really affect your 2024. All right, so as we wrap up, we're going to do our see you later caffeinator. And these are just some quick tips to sticking to your promises for the new year. Whether you're a resolution person or whether you're like us and you want to do a word of the year, here's some quick ways to make sure that those stick, that you're really setting yourself up for success. For starters, be specific. Like Chris was saying, you know, have a game plan. How, you know, if you're doing a resolution, how do you plan to make that real? If you're doing a word of the year, how do you plan to make that word, you know, manifest in your life? How do you plan to use that word as a motivator for yourself? So having a specific plan in mind with specific goals, all of that is super important. So be specific, but also be realistic. You don't want to set a goal for yourself that is, you know, super lofty and you're setting yourself up for failure and you're just going to be disappointed and irritated with yourself if it doesn't all work out. So setting a goal or a word of the year that is realistic for you is insanely important. You don't want to put yourself through that where you're just bogged down on yourself because it didn't actually work out. So knowing yourself, knowing your circumstances, that'll all help be more realistic. And lastly, be forgiving. We are all going to slip up here and there. If my word of the year is to pause and, not be so reactionary, I expect that at some point I'm going to slip up. It's not the goal, but I do expect that it's going to happen. So be forgiving of yourself, give yourself some grace, and know that you're still learning, you're still working through it, you're trying to create a habit. Be forgiving that you might slip up here and there. And thank you so much for joining the Cold Coffee Club.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.